Good morning and welcome to the Frontiers of Knowledge segment of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. We live on this planet and we are always confused about the latest developments. The latest one, of course, apart from the corona, is the fear of the world coming to an end because of the climate change. We are fully aware that change is a law of nature. Climates keep on changing. But to say that it's the end of the world is going too far. Let's not forget the fact that the earth is a dynamic sphere, and it turns out so is the planet's climate, otherwise known as global weather conditions. It's no wonder that myths always are created about what exactly is going on around us, especially if it concerns the whole world. So myths are created around the atmosphere, about the universe, about the oceans, and even the land. How can you tell whether your globe is actually warming or whether you and I are to be blamed, whether progress is to be blamed or is it natural? So, interested parties, the conspiracy theorists always try to evolve, consolidate fiction as facts, and then the myths are created. So have a look at some of the murky statements on the Earth's climate. It's a myth to say that even before the greenhouse gas spraying technologies, global climate was changing. So humans can't be held responsible for the global warming. No, you can't deny that the changes in the past show that our climate reacts to the energy input and output. And if the planet accumulates more heat than it gives off global atmosphere, the temperature would rise. It's normal. You produce more energy, more heat, it would be there. So, partially, the economic development, the growth of population, the rising standards of living needed it. So partially the responsibility is of the human beings, but not fully. Let's not forget the economic development and even the agriculture is the driver of the heat balance. Not you and me primarily, we might be contributing as individuals 3 to 5% of the global warming. Currently, carbon dioxide imposing an energy imbalance due to enhanced greenhouse effect is fact. Past climate change actually provides evidence that our climate is sensitive to CO2. But what to do? Can you control population? It is being controlled. Countries are having negative growth. Even India is seeing that. So this is a myth that is something sudden. Second myth. The planet cannot be warming when my front yard is covered in several feet of snow. We had snow in Australia, we had snow in Sahara, we had snow in Saudi Arabia, and we have seen here in Canada several feet of snow. This winter has been one of the chilliest. So if it's chilliest, how can the global warming be there? This is a myth. Local temperatures all over the world taken as individual data points have nothing to do with a long-term trend of global warming. These local ups and downs in weather and temperature can hide a slower moving upstick in long-term climate. So to get a real bead on global warming, a climate change, I'll prefer it, you have to rely on changes in weather over a longer period of time. And to find climate trends, you need to look at how weather is changing not in 1 year, not in 2 years, but say in 30 years, in 40 years. And that would show that the new record highs are nearly twice as often as the new record lows. A study was published in Geophysical Research Letters in 2009, and that mentioned that the daily record high temperature occurred twice as often as the record low over the prior decade. The climate is cooling. That's a fact. But whether it's a temporary one, that's a myth. It is cooling, yes, but it's a temporary feature. It's not permanent. The last decade, from 2000 to 2009, was the hottest on record. Big blizzards, abnormally chilly weather, they make you feel that it's not growing. Global warming is not antithetical to chilled weather. As a matter of fact, it's a climate change. So change would be there even if it's cold. Change is still there. So the climate change in the long term, measured over the decades, shows that there has been a trend. Then another myth. Over the past few hundred years, the sun activity, including the sunspot, has increased, which resulted in the earth getting warmer. No. Science records show that in the last 35 years, the climate has been heating up. In the past century, solar activity can explain some of the increased global temperature, but it's very small. As a matter of fact, even during a prolonged lull in the sun's activity, Earth still continues to be warm. The study found that the Earth absorbs 0.58 watts of excess energy per square meter. That's it. So, to say that sun's activity is responsible is deluding ourselves. No, everyone doesn't have to agree, yes. But then there's a myth that there's no consensus, yes. But if we look at the totality of statistics, although I always say there are lies, damn lies, and statistics, if we look at that, if it's 60%, 40%, I can believe it's cooked up. But 97% of the scientists agree that climate change is happening faster. Nobody denies it's not happening. It is happening. It is natural. Only thing is whether it's happening faster or not. In the scientific field of climate studies, as has been seen in different disciplines, the consensus is that now the scientists have stopped arguing about what is causing the climate change. Whether it's natural, whether it's human activity, whether it's economic development, whether it's automobile, and even the electric cars which are coming are more of a propaganda because the battery that's being made is more polluting. So nearly all of them are, as a matter of fact, contributing. But to blame one part, as some of the scientists are doing, is strengthening the myth. Then there's another myth. There was a presidential candidate, Rick Santorum. He said the danger of the carbon dioxide. It is true that the plant photosynthesizes and carbon dioxide is required by the plants. It's required by the human beings. And carbon dioxide, as a way of forming energy with the help of sun and water, is photosynthesis. This gas, but undeniably, it is a direct pollutant. It causes acidification of oceans. So you can't ignore that fact. Importantly, it's linked with the greenhouse effect. So when heat is released from the Earth's surface, some of the radiation is stirred by the greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, and it makes the climate change a bit quicker. Now, one thing which is a myth, of course, that the scientists are conspiring to push the global warming. Sorry, no, it's a myth. But the part of it's true. Not the scientists, but the political leaders. The political leaders need anything to scare you, to create a mass psychosis, hysteria, so that they can tighten their grip on you. So they want to terrify you, put you in a state of panic, where you suspend your cognitive faculty, your thinking capacity. So thousands of emails were leaked in November 2009. It was called Climate Gate, and that showed the earth is warming. No, the point is there was no cover-up. Hacker did access and release emails, yes. And they were released from the University of East Anglia. A number of investigations was launched, and it was seen that these emails were scientific documents which were a part of the argument between the scientists fixing the responsibility. It was not a denial activity by the scientists. It was not a promoter activity. It was scientific appraisal panel. So there was no evidence of cover-up. But this climate gate was utilized by the politicians to impose taxes called carbon tax. Now, nothing could be more damaging to the society that you impose a tax for a certain purpose. And this was leveraged, as I said, to tighten the grips on you. And then myth is that human history is shown as an evidence that warm periods are good for people, where the cold, unstable stints have been catastrophic. No. Any position which is out of the order, out of the average is wrong. Ice age is equally bad as a burning fires. Let's be very clear. The negative impact of the climate change on agriculture, on human life, on economy and environment cannot be discounted. And that's a fact. When change takes place, the people who are affected by the change would suffer. There was a study in 2007 that a warming planet may mean an increased growing season in Greenland. Yes, agree. But it did not mention that it would also involve water shortage. It would also involve frequent and more intense wildfires. It would also mean increasing deserts. So you lose some, you gain some. More intense weather, you get more food, but less water, more deserts. Is that acceptable? Then another myth is being created by some people. I was shocked that Antarctica is expanding while the Arctic ice cap is melting. They say Arctic or North is melting because of global warming, but it's being offset by, that's why the climate change is there. It's not only global warming, but those people who say that Antarctica is expanding and the ice is increasing omit the fact that there's a difference between land ice and sea ice. If you're talking about Antarctic sea sheet, you can see some accumulation in the interior because of more warm, moisture-laden. But look at the ice loss at the periphery. So inside there might be some increase. You just take a, this is a classic example of suppressing facts and exposing some part truth. So major part is suppressed. So a study was done in the Peninsular State University, and they found that the net change in the ice mass in the difference between the accumulation and peripheral layers is much more. The traditional models have accepted and have been used and found that it was not there. And then there is a myth that these climate models used by the scientists are unreliable. Who says? It is said by the conspiracy theorists. There is no way to know if same assumptions can be made in a world with increased carbon dioxide. And models have been successfully utilized to reproduce a global temperature since 1900. So for the last 122 years, the human beings, the scientists have been using these models, and there is no problem. But as I said, we start cherry picking. We pick and choose. And then based on half facts, half truths, we build up a complete edifice, a complete building. Foundations are weak. But these myths detract people, spoil the initiative, make people apprehensive, make people feel afraid, and then that is a tragedy which can be worse than the climate change. So these myths, the creation of conspiracy theorists, have to be avoided, have to be seen in proper perspective, and you would find that change is there. It was there, and it shall always be there. We have to adapt to it rather than try to stop the inevitable. Thank you.